Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to, a literal member, a bloodline of the Hart family, the Hart dynasty, and she is the daughter of Diana Hart, as well as a legend in Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog. She is the one and only Georgia Smith. Georgia, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing great. I don't think, I think this might have been my third or fourth podcast of the year, and I don't think it could get any better, and I might even be at half a dozen, but it doesn't get any better than this. So this is really cool.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad to be on here, and we were going back and forth, and we're here, so I'm excited.
Absolutely, as am I. Now, I would kind of talk a little bit off air, but like, if not for your family and their contribution to pro wrestling, I don't think I would be even covering combat sports as a whole, But you have kind of an interesting kind of way about it, because you couldn't escape it, right? Your grandfather is a wrestler, your mom's brothers are all wrestlers, and then your dad and his cousins are wrestlers. Like, this is insane.
Yeah. And my brothers are wrestlers.
Yes, absolutely. You can't forget Harry, the great Harry Smith.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's it's a lot. And it's all that I've known. And my kids will probably be wrestlers, so I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, it's just crazy, the bloodline and the legacy, and I'm glad that people like you appreciate it. So thank you.
No, the pleasure is all mine. Now, I gotta ask, right? Because as kids, right, we don't necessarily appreciate our parents or even our grandparents the way that I guess we should, and we end up appreciating in our, like, when we get a little bit more mature, right? But there had to be a point where you're like, my family, like my grandfather and my uncles, are a little bit different. Like, not everybody's like family members have action figures and being able to be played on video games. Like, so at what moment did you were like, there's something different about us?
This in some other interviews, but with my dad, like I just knew, at a young age, my dad wasn't like the dads I saw on TV. He wasn't like Bob Saget and Full House, and he wasn't like that. He wasn't like the Fred Flintstone, where he's taking his briefcase to work, and he's had a suit and tie, and reading the paper. My dad was a jet setter, and he didn't look like a regular person. So at a young age, I was kind of like, okay, he's different. And then I would see him on TV, and that was who I knew. That was the person I knew. He was Davey on TV, and he was Davey at home. I referred to my dad as Davey because that's all they called him. When he was home, it was Davey. When he was at work, it was Davey. And I think when it really clicked to me, I know when I brought him to school, kids were like, "Oh my God, that's your dad." And that's when I knew he was really popular, when swarms of kids would come around him. And at Disney World, Mickey Mouse, the guys that would dress up as Mickey and Donald and stuff, they'd come up to him and ask him for his autograph. And I was like, whoa, Mickey Mouse is asking Davey for his autograph. And I was like, wow, okay, well, he must be a pretty big deal. I must have been like 4 or 5 years old, but that's when I knew, okay, my dad's different. And also just, it was everywhere we went, anywhere. 7-Eleven, McDonald's, the mall, airports. My dad would be stop. Restaurants, he'd be stop. And that was just the way of life for us. So yeah, that's when I knew things were different in my house.
Now, did that because obviously this was in an age like there was the internet, but it wasn't as advanced. This is like pre-social media, pre-TMZ, and you still had that type of acclaim because, and again, there weren't YouTube stars or anything like that. Like, what the people that you saw on TV were TV stars. So not only was he a professional wrestler, but he was a TV star. in many respects. So, I mean, was there a part where you're like, nah, like, can't my dad just like go out for tea? Like, I want to have a tea party with my dad, and like, you guys are messing up.
Yeah, not there'd be some times where, you know, he would try to be doing like activities with us, or, you know, we'd go to like the water slides or Busch Gardens, and, you know, he would get stopped everywhere. But, you know, my dad never made like a big deal out of it. He was never like, oh God, I gotta do this again. He was always just like, yeah, it was always cool. He's always stopped for people. And it was only about 2 occasions that I think I saw him say no. One we were running late, and one was just really early in the morning at McDonald's, and he just was like, I don't want to be the British Bulldog right now. But other than that, you know, it was never disruptive in our lives, or like, oh my God. I just remember I felt bad for him one time. You know, we were at the mall for Christmas shopping, and he went to the bathroom, and he had people outside his stall waiting for him. I didn't like that. But, you know, he was like, well, it's just the way it is. But he had a pretty good attitude about it.
I think that's amazing. That's amazing. And it speaks to the man that he was, you know, because, I mean, it's funny, too, because you mentioned that, you know, like the cool points that you might have scored in school, because, like, I mean, I took my wife right before the pandemic and everything like that to a Phil Collins concert. And, you know, and Phil, you know, in this incarnation has his 17-year-old son Nicholas drumming for him and what have you, right? And he goes like, well, you know, of all the things that I've done in Genesis, all the stuff that I've done in my solo career, Nicholas only likes one song, and it's this obscure track, right?
That you say that, because I saw Phil Collins about 2 years ago now live, and his son was drumming. I saw him.
Yes,
said the same thing. Yeah, so it's funny.
No, absolutely. But I mean, even I didn't feel too bad, right? Because like my kid goes like, oh, dad's just doing a podcast. Oh, he's just doing an interview. He's doing another show, whatever, you know. But I mean, if Phil Collins, you know, could have that respect, I didn't feel so bad, right? But I mean, Davey must have scored way, I mean, like so many cool points. The fact that he raised your cred, you know, amongst your friends.
Totally. You know, my dad, he gave me lots of clout. He for sure did. To this day, you know, he helps me out. So I appreciate that. But it's true, you know, like in school, I wasn't really popular. I wasn't really cool. I wasn't really good in school. And not many people would give me the time of day until they saw, oh, British Bulldogs pulled up. Oh, but bring your parent to work or to school day. Oh, you know, wow, holy moly. And like, even if kids didn't know wrestling, like if they saw my dad, it was like, because he didn't look like other people. He just already got attention. So he was always just like, whoa, he was a complete spectacle. But yeah, lots of kids were like, damn, I didn't know that was your dad. Like, oh my God, that's so cool. And that's when like they gave me, you know, which isn't really right. They should have been friends with me from the get-go, from who I am as a person. But, you know, I remember I was doing a driving test, and the guy, I was telling this to my friend today, and the guy's just chatting with me, and he's asking me about my parents. I don't know how it came up. And I was like, oh yeah, my dad was a wrestler. And he was like, oh, that's so dope. And he passed me. So I'm going to say Davey had something to do with that. I mean, I was just really, really nervous, but the guy passed me. So I was like, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's the gift that keeps on giving. My goodness, and it's a way that wrestling unites us all, right? You know, so that's really really fun. Now, I mean, did you grow up in like the States, or did you grow up in Calgary?
Well, I was born in Calgary, and then in 1991 we moved to Tampa, Florida. And we lived there for nearly 6 years. And then we returned back to Calgary. And then when we were in Calgary, that's when, you know, Hart Foundation started in 97. And we were up until Calgary. My dad passed away in 2002. 2007, 8, I returned back to Tampa. And we came back because Harry was doing stuff with FCW. And we were just like, wanted a new chapter. And, you know, I got, you know, I love Calgary and it will always be home to me, but I just have a lot of like just bad memories there. So I just was like, ugh, and it's freezing there, and I'm just good. I feel like I did my time there. And so I moved back to Florida, and then I lived in England for 5 years, and then now I'm back here in Tampa. So it's just I've been all over. Once I got my UK citizenship, I just tried to, I wanted a new thing, and I got an experience there, and I saw, how my dad lived in England, and I wanted to see like how, his life there. And it was really cool because my dad came from England and moved to Canada, and that was all new to him. And then I came from North America and moved to England, and I felt that kind of same thing, like trying to fit in and trying to find my way, and learning how to drive there. Oh my God. And I did it, and that was a little chapter of my life and an experience of traveling and doing something different. So now I'm here, and I'm going to be buried here. I don't want to move anywhere else. I'm done.
I mean, the sun's shining. That's, England could be a bit dreary, and Calgary, from what I hear, the winters could be absolutely brutal. So, I mean, good on you, I think.
Thank you. I did my time.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, one thing that I wanted to ask, because again, so on one hand, you've got your mother's side of the family of the Harts, and then obviously Davey's, interaction and then physical. I mean, he was a physical specimen. But what most people don't know is like your grandfather on the Smith side was this incredible runner.
My great grandfather Harry Smith, my grandmother Helen's father. Yes. Who Harry, my brother, is named after. Yeah.
Named after, right?
Yeah, he was named after. He was an Olympic runner, and that's how my grandfather met him in New York, and then his wife Elizabeth, or who they call Ellie, who my aunt's named after. She came from Greece, and she came on the boat to New York, Ellis Island, and that was a whole story in itself. But yeah, it's sports are all in my family. Sports and art and being creative and athletic. And yeah, I mean, I didn't get that athletic part, but we're creative. So yeah. So I'm glad you bring that up. I'm glad, because I feel like he doesn't get spoken a lot about, or a lot of credit. And I don't know a whole lot about him, unfortunately, because he died so many years before I was born. But that man was a legend in himself, and he has such a story that I hope someday it can be told.
I don't know. You're doing such a great job curating your dad's legacy. I don't know. I think you might have to revisit that. I'm just saying.
I mean, I think that would be something definitely my mom and I could work on, and that's something she wants to tackle as well. I mean, right now with my dad, as you know, my hands are like, I'm like an octopus right now, but I would definitely love to do that. You make a very good point, so thank you.
No worries. Giving credit where it's due. And Stephen Tatum says, "This is so cool. Honored listening to a member of the Hart Smith dynasty." So shout out to Stephen Tatum. Yes, thank you. And and this is what I kind of wanted to get to. So Stephen Tatum asks, how was your grandfather Stu and your experience with him? Was the dungeon stories that us fans only get glimmers of? Like, what was your point of view as a child?
My grandfather was like a gentle giant, and he definitely, I'm not trying to say he favored grandchildren, but I think he favored me because I'm so much, well, he used to call me Diana because, he thought I was so much like my mom, and my mom was like the youngest in the family besides Owen, and I was like the youngest, so it was always baby Georgia, or he always called me Diana. But he really, really cared about us, and I'm so grateful for my grandfather, and he helped us out so much when my dad died. And I'll never forget, my grandfather had the big meaty wrestling hands, and the all calloused and all that. And I remember I had a crayon that I was coloring at my grandfather's, and I broke it, and I was really sad about it, and I gave it to him, and he just like carefully taped it, and it looked like just brand new. And I never forgot that. I was like, wow, because he could have been like, oh, throw it out, but he took that time and did that. And he was very stern with our eating, like, you're not going to leave your table until your food's done. And that was just the way he was, because growing up, or not him growing up, but he had 12 kids, a promotion, all these things he had to be doing, and it was like, you guys are eating, and also my grandfather was he was living in a tent in Saskatchewan in the middle of nowhere for most of his life, and he was hunting his food. So wasting food is a big thing in the Hart household. It's like, you got to eat. And to this day, if you guys eat with Harry and I, we never leave a plate unfinished because we were instilled that. And I'm very grateful for that. And I try to not waste food. And, you know, if I'm ever given meat, or I don't eat meat, but when I did, you know, I try to appreciate it, because my grandfather had to hunt like rabbits and like they had worms in them. And it's just a whole, you know, just appreciate what you got. And he really taught me that. And he had such a good sense of art and beauty. And I remember in his house, he had like stunning Oriental Persian carpets. And, you know, when he had the money, he invested, you know, chandeliers. And I never forgot that. Whenever I have a house or have space, I try to instill his vision. I mean, obviously I can't have chandeliers everywhere, but I you know, that's something that I take with me. And I believe I've gotten like my little interior design gift from him. So that's the grandfather I knew. And I mean, the dungeon stories, yes, they are true. Yes. You know, he never did that with me, obviously, or with the girls, but, you know, he would take somebody down there and, you know, put them in a hold, and he was very strategic, and he would just do like the ever slightest thing. And then, you know, the person would be turning blue and, you know, it'd be like, okay. But, yeah, he was just, you know, a godlike man. And I really wish he made that Hart House what it was. And when he passed away, it was just, unfortunately, it was just a house. It didn't have that same feeling, that same charm. It wasn't right after he passed away. And yeah, I wish I could really go back and be with all my cousins and have him there. And he was the man.
I could only imagine, and especially now, where I mean, obviously, you know, with the advent of MMA, right? Harry has trained under the great Billy Robinson, also of English descent, and Sakuraba, right? So, you know, what Stu Hart could have meant for, like, if he essentially, you know, kind of trotted out the next generation of MMA. Like if Randy Couture had went up to the dungeon, or Dan Severn actually told me a story of his first time going to the dungeon and meeting Stu, and it's just like, like I'm getting goosebumps. My goodness.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because Harry, you know, everybody says Harry's your dad, and Harry, there's so much alike. I see glimpses of my dad. I see bits, but he is all Stu. Harry is all him. And I look at like old pictures of Stu, and like when you're talking about like the combat moves and the UFC influence, like that's from Stu. That's not from my dad.
Mm-hmm.
That's all Stu. And when you see Harry, like, oh, come here, and he'll just grab somebody and do a hold. And sometimes, you know, Harry would be like, okay, well, here's my sister. And well, he'll like, sometimes I've come with him to practices because he wants me to film it. And him and the guy are doing something, and Harry's not getting it. He's like, all right, Georgia, come here. And I'm like, oh God. he's trying to demonstrate, but you know, you're a carbon copy of Stu for sure.
Now, do you ever rib him a bit and go like, hey, Stu, calm down, just calm down, like?
With Harry, do I ever say like,
yeah?
I'll be like, okay, you're being really like grampy right now, and he'll be like, ha ha. And my brother also like loves to cook, which my grandfather, he cooked all the time. Almost every Sunday dinner that we had at my family's house, my grandfather or my Aunt Georgia was the cook, but he made like, there wasn't anything like that he couldn't do. But Harry is really passionate about cooking and making sushi. And again, my mom's not a chef. My dad's not a chef. Came from Stu. So, yeah, he's very, very much like him. And build wise, everything, it's crazy.
Yeah, oh my goodness, and the athlete that he is, because he's, I mean, way over 6 foot tall. But I saw him, I actually got an On It like mace bell because of it. But I saw him do a bridge where he literally like walks up and down the bridge, but he's in a full on back bridge, and he walks himself out. And again, like for me at 5'9", that's pretty. It's pretty difficult to do, but for him and his stature, my goodness.
Yeah, and he during this COVID time, he's gotten, after practice done a back handspring, and for his height, that's really, really hard. So you know, he's during COVID, he's learned Japanese, he's learned how to make sushi, and he's learned how to do a back handspring. ring. And he's gotten his personal training certificate. So well done, Harry. Well done. He's really taken this time and ran with it.
Brava to that guy. And Nate Wren saying so many legends from that family, absolutely. Which is again why it's so cool to talk. I mean, my firstborn son, his name is Owen, and that just kind of that just kind of speaks to again the influence that you and your family had on me. That's personally, but I mean for legions of people, and that's why I think it's like so important to get these stories, because we saw what we saw on TV, but like the people behind who they are, because you are a direct descendant from them. You have that lineage and you have those stories, and like if not that, like again, those stories kind of like go into the ether, and that's one thing that I would hate to have happen.
Definitely. And like I can't even if I got remarried and all of that, like that, you can take me out of the family, but you can't change. It's just a part of who I am. And without wrestling and without my family, like it's like I'm empty without them. So when I lived in England for 5 years and I was just kind of out of the loop with things and didn't really see my family, it just I felt I was too far away, and I was like, I got to get back to my roots.
Yeah, and I mean, being in Tampa, that's almost like the haven for wrestlers. Yeah, I mean, Florida overall is pretty much it.
Yeah, it totally is, and it's been that way since even before I was born. It was Tampa was the place to be, and I mean, I love it here. I love it. I mean, one downside I don't like is when they're hacking the trees and mowing the lawn at like 7 a.m. I don't like that. But other than that, I love Tampa, and pretty much all the wrestlers live here. And now it's like they've got the Raw and SmackDown and all the pay-per-views at the Tropicana Field. I mean, there's no escaping it. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, kudos to you. I mean, it's not to say that I didn't respect you before. I definitely do. But I mean, you living in Florida, I mean, I went out to Florida once and I flew into Fort Lauderdale Airport to attend a conference in Wesson, and they stopped traffic because there was an alligator running loose. That's all I needed. I was like, I'll stand my earthquakes here in California or flash floods, and it's just automatically assumed, like, when it rains, Malibu just loses a house. That's just like, it's a foregone conclusion. That's just it. But I mean, the alligator, I was like, I'm good.
Yeah. I was actually on my walk and somebody was like, Miss, and I'm listening to my headphones. She's like, wow. And she's like stopping me. I'm like, yeah. She's like, there's an alligator in that water. And I was walking on the dock. And there was an alligator just, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Yeah. And I've seen them from like a distance, but never like right beside me, like right under me. And I'd like took pictures of it. I'm like, oh my God, this is like a celebrity. Like, what am I? And people are like, you better move. I was like, this is cool. Because like, I don't that stuff. Like, and also like, what's he gonna do? He was about this big. He was just a baby. But yeah.
I'm of that Kevin Hart principle. If it has more muscle mass than you, who's really the owner? I remember, and my wife kind of ridicules me. I mean, deathly because of this. But we went to like this kind of, sanctuary, and there was a bald eagle, right? And they're like, oh, it's not here, it's injured and blah, 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 and what have you, right? So it's just like, and the nest was huge. Like, I mean, a quarter of the size of my living room. And essentially, like, I thought, right, I take my, at the time, like 3 or 4 year old son, like, oh, look how big the nest is. Didn't know it, but they forgot to remove the sign that, oh, like, bald eagle has gone away. And I was, Georgia, I shit you not, I was face to face with this damn bald eagle, and I'm 5'9". I'm face to face with it, and we booked it. Like, I picked up my kid, threw him over my shoulder, and we went to the front, like, of the damn zoo. It's not my proudest moment, but again, what do you know about like wounded animals, right? And then one that has I can't fly. He has the same girthiness as I do as a human
No,
being.
you down. He will take you down.
Yeah.
And
So I booked it. Like, bye. Adios.
if you just a random piece of information, if you want to learn about it's just I was watching some interesting videos when my cousin Teddy was visiting here, and on YouTube it was talking about the kangaroo pouch. So take people that are watching this to watch about the kangaroo pouch, how that's all created. Watch it. Tell me your thoughts, feedback, suggestions.
Ooh, yes. Oh my God. I think that has become. I mean, you're talking about Harry and his sushi and learning Japan. That has been my thing during this whole kind of COVID quarantine deal. Was like I've been going down wormholes. Like like YouTube wormholes. Those are the best. Like. Like, I don't know why I would need to know about why somebody has like a 300-pound tumor. I don't know, but maybe that might be useful. I don't know.
Yeah, I've gone down way too many wormholes, and on my Instagram, I don't know if you guys have, when you look at one video in the search thing, and then like all of a sudden you get all these other videos that like are recommended for you, and I'm like, I don't want to see this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get birth. Good, yeah, but yeah, that I was, I have no words for that. So take it up, people.
Well, that's why I've kind of resigned to using my social media. I feel like the native gentleman in Joe Dirt, where he was this snakes and sparklers. And actually, I can do less of one thing because I shattered the hell out of my phone 2 days after Thanksgiving, so I'm without a phone. But I mean, it was memes, like, and non-political, non-religious, like just like dad jokes, essentially dad jokes and podcasts. That's what I became. Like, that's essentially it.
Yeah. I feel I think everybody's on the same page with you, but I don't know what it's like in California there, but yeah, you just got to stay busy some way
or another. I'm just saying, in some way or another. So Steve wants to know, in terms of $1 million question, do you have any experiences with your Uncle Brett or the great your Uncle Owen?
I just remember, do you remember when Owen and Bret were feuding? But
yes.
They took that, like, they wouldn't travel together, and I remember there was a family dinner. Like they weren't talking to each other, but like I believed it, and I was like, and I would go up to one of them and be like, what's going on? They'd be like, I don't want to talk to Owen right now. And then I'd go to Brett, or Owen and Brett, or Owen would be like, oh, to tell him to stay away from me. And like I would just go back and forth, and I was like, whoa, they must be really mad at each other, but they kept it going. That's something I don't ever forget, and that was at a family dinner. So I mean, they wanted us kids to believe it. So kudos to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing to work or kayfabe the boys, but like to kayfabe your family. And again, your family's a wrestling family, so I guess it works. But even still, I mean, that's dedication. I mean, you talk about like Jim Carrey and Man on the Moon in terms of like, character development, or Heath Ledger and Dark Knight. But that's one thing that I feel like wrestlers don't get their just due, is like they are method actors, like to the umpteenth degree, because again, you got to live this.
100%. And not only do they have to live it, but they have to be like on point, like mentally, physically. When they're in the ring, they have to perform a physical act for however many minutes. And it's crazy. It's gymnastics and acting and somewhat combat stuff. So I give to anybody that does that. But yeah, they took it really seriously. And when I was like 7 years old, I was like, why can't we all just get along?
That's good. That's so great. Oh my gosh, that's so great. And I mean, this is like, theoretically speaking, in terms of the timeline, this is like post Rodney King, where that was the most famous, like, why can't we all get along? And you're at 7 are echoing that as a female to your big burly uncles.
Yeah. So, and as well, that was going on like when I would be visiting. So we were in Florida, and then we'd come visit Calgary, and like that was the mid '90s when like they were really feuding, and I was like, wow, this is really bad.
No, I mean that's the other thing. I mean, did your I mean, obviously, your dad and Dynamite, right? They're cousins, they're tag team partners, and what have you. I mean, do you have any kind of recollection of like that time period, or were you still pretty young
Um,
in terms of their run?
I don't have any memories of Dynamite, and like again, like with the British Bulldogs, like I don't. I mean, obviously, I knew my dad as Davey because when he was with Dynamite, that's what they referred him to. In the as in 88, 89, 90, when I was really really little, and then I would call Dynamite Diamondite. So that's how I knew them. Harry has a better recollection of Dynamite, but like I don't really have any. I mean, obviously, like I heard the stories from my dad about how Dynamite was and from other people, but no, I don't have any memories of Matilda either. I know she did bite my brother. God. Bless her heart, bless her soul. She was just Winston, I have a little bit of memories of. I remember walking him at like WrestleMania 7, like at the arena, and like he didn't want me to walk him. He was like, I go with him. I was like,
Wow.
gave my dad the leash and he followed my dad along. But like he was very, that was his person. Just like Matilda, Davey was her person. She was very protective. And like Winston and Matilda, like my mom would like get in the bed with my dad and like one of them would just pee on her side, marking their territory. Like you don't. Yeah. And like I don't know what Harry did, but Matilda, she rubbed him the wrong way and she wouldn't dare do that to my dad.
Wow. And even so, I guess Matilda and Winston were working dogs essentially.
Yeah. Matilda, she was a bit of a diva, but you got to keep in mind she had been a show dog for however long, and she had lots of puppies, because she was a pedigree bulldog and show dog, and next thing you know, she's traveling the world, with WWE, going to different places and being a single mom and bless her, but yeah, Winston was a little more chill. I think Winston didn't like the Florida heat as much. Matilda was up, in Calgary where it was cold. Winston was up down here and was like, and my dad was like, it's just too hot for him. Like, it's just too much. And so he gave Winston to Ultimate Warrior's limo driver.
What?
Hmm? Yeah, I don't know how. I don't know. I have no idea how that came along. And then, next thing you know, the earliest dog we had was a Shih Tzu. So yeah, that's how that happened. But going back to Dynamite, no, I don't really have any memories of him.
I just love how, because again, we see them as larger than life people, but I mean, it's funny because like I remember hearing a story of like Bruno Sammartino's first like championship belt was essentially in a closet somewhere like far and away from where he actually won it and lost it. Ric Flair's robe getting, taken from like a county fair and everything like that. And some moments of like wrestling history. I'm sure the Brit are like, oh man, like, tack on an extra couple hundred, if not thousands of dollars. Like, hey, your puppy you're getting is literally from either Winston or Matilda. Like I'm just saying, like that's a gimmick table thing right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And when my dad's Hall of Fame ceremony does happen, I found a bulldog, and I actually gave him this idea. I said, I think, because I remember when Coco Beware brought Frankie, and then Jake brought Damien. I think I was like, we should have a bulldog on stage. And the guy who I was talking to from WWE was like, well, we got to find one that's used to audiences because we don't want to like make animal people mad. And I totally understand that. And I found one who's in California. And she is a viral bulldog and goes to football games and audiences. But now, if it does move forward, the Hall of Fame, and it's a virtual event, even the better. But she still attended. But I told the guy, because he was like, people are asking if Buffy the bulldog, like if she's related to Winston or Matilda. I'm like, yeah, just say it's their great granddaughter. Sure, just say that. Why not?
I mean, it works. I mean, I would know the better. I mean, unless there's like a characteristic that, and there's going to be somebody again going down wormholes that'll like find this obscure French match of like Winston and whatever. Like, oh wait, but this one that's getting inducted in the Hall of Fame, like this one doesn't have that quirk.
It doesn't have have that marking. It doesn't. I don't know. Yeah, and my dad had so many bulldogs as well, like for different. I think he had a bulldog when he was in England doing the tours there, and people were like, that's Winston." It's like, sure it is. Yeah, why not?
I think that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, Yasbeats saying Happy New Year to you both. Happy New Year to you, good sir.
Oh yeah, hopefully this is better. Hopefully it's not any worse than 2020. But
I mean, I don't think it can. But also, I think it was Jerry Lawler in a video game that said one of the most like introspective verbal gems ever, and it was make your words soft and sweet, just in case you have to eat them later. And I live by that.
I totally agree with that, and I think you're right. I think we are getting like the worst is over. I mean, we might be sitting at the worst, but I think we're moving forward. I feel like slowly but surely things are changing. So fingers, toes, everything crossed. And I don't know if things will ever go back to normal again, but I hope that things will get back to as normal as possible.
Absolutely, and that's kind of it. Like, I had a YouTube channel like for the last 2 years, but didn't do anything until July, and it was just this right here was basically like reaching out to friends that I would normally see at shows every weekend and what have you, reaching out to them, inviting people to comment, and just kind of figuring it out together. Like that's it, because I think regardless of what's going on, and again, this is, talking to people that lived through the 20s, and like there have been worse things, but again, somehow we figure out a way together to figure it all out.
And good on you. Like, you had your YouTube show and you didn't really do much with it until like things got, you were kind of put in a position like, well, what can I do? And you turned something into something. You turned a negative into a positive, and you made it work. So good for you.
I appreciate that, especially coming from you. That's a compliment that I'm gonna Mario Yamasaki. There's a MMA referee that does this before every fight, so I'm gonna do that. There you go.
No problem. Just giving credit where credit's due. And now look, you reached out to me, and now we're talking. So if you never know, and you might, I think it can only go up. You never know your next.
I mean, literally, I think we should end it here. I don't think it gets any better than no.
Yeah, you're making me, you're boosting my confidence. But yeah, that's really good. I'm proud of you. So
I appreciate it, as I am proud of you, my dear. So, and I want to ask, right? So obviously, you have all of these, characters in your family, right? I mean, those are the wrestlers, right? Then you've got like Uncle Smith, and who I was fortunate to get in contact with right before he passed away, and he's just, such a sweet guy, a youthful soul,
totally.
But there's other characters in the wrestling business that you got to be around, right? So do you have any like funny or fond memories of like being backstage at events and like,
Well, to be honest, like they were always like really normal with me. Like they were just kind of like my family. And when I'd have birthday parties, like Sensational Sherry would be there, Legion of Doom. Like I remember, I think Randy Savage was at one of my birthday parties. Rick Rude dressed up as Big Bird for his kid's birthday party that we all went to. Yeah, and like the Florida Heat. So that they were pretty normal. They never really like weirded me out or like, oh yeah, but I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they were talking again, like, you've got some interesting people in your family. Do you have any funny stories? And I was like, well, I'll give it a nutshell. I said, during this holiday weekend, my cousin Ted was here, and let's just say I had to sage the house. So, if that tells you anything, yeah, fun stuff. Finding sparkles everywhere.
Oh yeah, is there like a backflipping feline about? Because that's usually the mark of Ted as well.
Surprisingly, no. No, he didn't have a cat with him this time. I'm not sure. I have no idea, but we got the crystals and the sage out, and we're like, get his presence out of here. And just he's just a character, but I'm good. I'm good for him for a good while. If that's any just trying to make something funny out of it. So
No, that's great. And again, if I mean, you guys don't know, just put in the Google machine Teddy Hart, and you'll kind of figure it out.
you put it all together. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So
Uh,
yeah.
he worked the show in California again, like right before the pandemic. I want to say like late 2019 and whatever. And he was kind to me. I think there's a picture rolling around on the interwebs that me and Ted together. But I mean, that's the thing. It's just like I don't know. I guess we should. I'm gonna segue. Let's do that.
Segue. Yes.
So, one person that especially in like the recent year or so, that has been kind of enshrouded in mystery of sorts is one Undertaker, right? And he's somebody that, again, I mean, talk about living the gimmick. He was that, right? Do you remember any kind of like youthful interactions with Taker?
I just always, he was always there, and I think Harry was a little bit afraid of him. But I remember it was the WrestleMania. I think it was WrestleMania 11, the one that was like in Connecticut with Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Yes.
Davey and Lex, yeah. And I remember Davey and Lex and Jonathan Taylor Thomas had been cutting this promo or doing filming. It was really, really long, and I was outside of the door while they were filming, and I think my mom was doing something. Everybody was busy, but I was with my dad, and I was just like falling asleep like on the side of the wall. And I remember Undertaker, he had this leather jacket, and he had put it on me because he thought I was cold, and I never forgot that. He felt bad, and he was like, well, you can have it if you want, like keep it for the day. And I was like, oh no, you can. I had to, and it was Connecticut, and like that time, really, really cold. And then we were in the arena, it's all concrete, and I never forgot that. And I thought that was really nice of him.
No, absolutely. He's the reason why, still as a 35-year-old male husband and father, I can't leave a light off, because like I think if I turn all the lights off in my house, I'll hear a gong with a shrill of oh yes. Like I literally cried when he locked Ultimate Warrior in the casket. Like I cried. I thought Ultimate Warrior was dead. That was
Paul Bearer for a second. I was like, that was so sad when he died. But yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, how much like then it really touched us as like in our times those days. And I remember when like they were doing that thing with like Jake Roberts and Ultimate Warrior when he was like, and he with Damien, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. In the dirt, yeah.
That was, I'll have to watch that later, but that was good. That was entertainment. That was good.
Yeah, absolutely. Take that, Jake Paul. I mean, although that guy sold out the Staples Center being an amateur boxer, but I mean, I'm just saying. Now, in terms of events, right? You mentioned WrestleMania 11, at Hartford XL, but there are two that I definitely want to bring to mind. Wembley Stadium, the match with your father and your uncle Bret, literally, like everybody was essentially like in the role of your mother, Diana. Like it's just like, where do you go? And again, to me, in terms of dramatics and theatrics, you can do all the big budget movies you want and everything like that. That and everything that went into that, so masterful, some of the best storytelling ever across any entertainment stream. But do you remember that, or if you don't remember it, like do you have any like people in your family that we're talking about it fondly?
Yeah. So Wembley Stadium and WrestleMania 7, those are like the two earliest wrestling events that I remember. And I remember we came to my grandparents' house before that, and I remember my dad was like he was sick in bed before this, when leading up to the show, and I remember watching like Bret cut his promo on TV, and then like seeing my dad at my grandparents' house, and I remember like watching, as you said, like my mom, she cut some really emotional interviews, because my dad was not well. He had the really, really bad staph infection in his leg. And they actually had to put like this doctor that Undertaker recommended, and a doctor friend of my dad's like, you gotta get this checked out because it was burning, and they injected a needle in it, and it was just pus, and it was really, really, really disturbing. I think my mom fainted when she saw the process of it. Meanwhile, they had leading up to this fight, and so my dad came to England. He was kind of still not well. And then, I remember taking the train to London. That was like my first ever train ride. And I remember like seeing like Paul Bearer, Undertaker, like all catering, like Ted DiBiase, Macho Man. I remember all of them. And I remember meeting, what's his name? The one that was on the microphone who was...
Jimmy Hart.
No.
Nope.
He was... he cut the microphone away.
Oh, wait. You're not talking about Howard Finkel.
No. He was doing like the interviews with everybody, and he used to be like the caster.
Oh yes, the guy from Major League, the Rod something or other. Is that no?
No, somebody might know. My brain is dead right now. But I've done podcasts with him, and he was like their main broadcaster. Like, welcome back, everybody. And,
wait, Todd Pettengill? No.
Oh, because this was 92.
Oh, 92.
Yeah.
Sean Mooney.
Sean Mooney, thank you.
There you go.
Sean Mooney. I remember seeing Sean Mooney there and like talking to my mom. And I remember I was like, whoa, I thought he was like kind of like a celebrity, because I always see him like introduce everybody, and he was always like the main news kind of looking guy. And I was like, wow, nearly 5 years old, being starstruck, Sean Mooney. And I remember actually getting to the arena, and it was, as you can imagine, massive, and just getting like, it took us forever to get our seats. And my mom was on the floor, but myself, Harry, and my dad's family from England were all in the royal box seats. So Wembley, like the main match was about like that big on the ground, and we couldn't really see anything. It was like Polly Pockets or something. And then it wasn't until my dad won that we knew the match, what had happened, and that was a really huge moment. And I've been to many wrestling events in my life, but I've never heard a reaction like that ever. And I remember there was a lot of stress leading up to it. I remember Harry and I like fighting a lot, and my dad being like, "Shut up!" And we're like, ugh. But like I didn't understand like what was on the line here, in front of 80,000 people. Harry and I are being dumb kids. And I remember we went out to eat after, and Harry and I remember we had like our forks and knives, and we were like celebrating. We were like all happy, like woo woo, being loud and obnoxious. So my dad, after he had went through all that, he tolerated that and was like, okay, you can whatever, be idiots. But yeah, that was that happened then. And I remember leading up to that, my dad did a lot of appearances and lots of things at places. There was a store called Woolworths in England, which was like a I don't know what you compare it to, but it was like a toy store.
Yeah, absolutely.
Department store. Yeah. And there he did one in London. He did one in Liverpool. I think he did some other ones, but the people at Woolworths, they said like, we've never seen a lineup like this, waiting to queue up to see somebody besides the Beatles when they came. And there was about 2,000 people that were lined up to meet my dad. And he signed about, I don't know how many, but he did it, and he did it again in Liverpool. And I remember doing all that, and he was doing a lot of media, like at HMVs. You know HMVs, those stores?
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing things like that. And yeah, those are my memories of that.
I think that's brilliant. And obviously with all of everything that went into that match, that's why it stands. It's withstand the test of time. It doesn't. I mean, it ages impeccably well. It's like a well-aged steak. It's just like it doesn't matter what type of fan you are, what era you're a fan of, you can watch that and just like, yeah, that's. Woof.
You have a very good point, because as well as I think that match is more brought up now than it was, I mean, obviously it was a big deal then, but I remember like in 2002, I watched that match with my dad, and like, it was still popular, but it's not like now, like it's becoming more and more. It's like you said, it's like a cult classic, and it's never happened before that, and it won't ever happen again, in my opinion. So it's just a classic, and that was, in my opinion, it was my dad's, his moment. And I just wish I could go back in the age I am now and watch it. So, I mean, as live and in person.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely. That I couldn't imagine what it was to be there. And again, your dad was the focal point. That was the main event. I mean, it was a secondary title, but it was the main event with the secondary title. Again, I can't say enough good things about that match. And again, your father's legacy in general, your family's legacy, it's incredible.
Thank you.
Now, do you? I'm a bit of a belt mark, right? I've got a couple replicas. I actually have the amateur MMA 135-pound women's title, like the first ever one, given to me by the champ. But I want to ask you, do you have a favorite belt design of your dad's?
I'm gonna go with the European Championship is my favorite. I just think it's just a cool looking belt. I like how it had incorporated a lot of red in it, and I just think it just looked perfect on my dad.
Yeah, absolutely. Wasn't he the first champion?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he? Yeah.
Yep.
I think we could just that's the Davey belt. I mean,
that's the Davey belt. It just wasn't. I feel like the people that wore it after, it just didn't quite fit. It's like R-Truth with a 24/7 belt. It's like you can only have, it just suits. It's just meant for them. And it's funny because Vince made that belt for that was specifically for Davey. So
Yeah, but again, that also speaks to, I mean, Vince, you know where you fall with him, good or bad. And for him to do that, and especially, talk about generations of wrestling, he's a second generation promoter, going into, so like for him to do that, and literally make it a centerpiece of an entire European tour, as well as like, in line with, there used to be just the big three, right? The tag, the IC, and the world, right? So for this to happen, that had to be special.
It was really. And Harry brought up something to me, which, I didn't really know anything about, because on my dad's website, people ask questions and they're like, how did Davey feel, when he got it, when he lost it? And then Harry said when Davey went back to WWE, in like the late 90s, he said in his contract, he made a point, like, when I come back, I'm getting that belt again, which I wasn't aware of. So, and he did. So yeah, belt meant a lot to him.
Oh my goodness. That's again, it's goosebumps. And especially now that, the WWE has the NXT UK brand and all of that, that essentially was the precursor to that.
Exactly. And, it's crazy because if it wasn't for, I believe, and, many people believe, and I think it's true, that if it wasn't for my dad, there would be no NXT UK. So he really, he started something, and I so wish he was here to like mentor those kids and do all that, because he would have loved it. And him and William Regal, I think they would have really worked so good together.
Again, two of my all-time favorites. So I can't disagree with you there. I mean, the first time I saw Regal and WCW do a butterfly suplex, I was just like, okay, all of the flippy shit gone. Like, I'm just like, that's it. Because like, if you've ever picked anybody up, you know how difficult that can be. And then to have somebody's like shoulders and arms pinned and then take them over, it's a thing of beauty.
It is. It really is. And it was a Halloween Havoc match with William Regal and Davey in '93, and it's one of the best matches in my opinion I've seen, because like they worked so well together, and Davey's doing things that like a person his size shouldn't be doing, and it was just such a good match, and he just did such a good job being a heel. he was so into that, and he had like the face, like that sour
Mm-hmm.
face, and you got the two, it was just perfect, the two British guys. You've got like the Superman, and then you got the villain, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was one of my favorites. If you guys are watching this, check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Quick, any memories of the in your house Calgary Stampede? Because the one thing that I saw was, oh my gosh, those kids, they know their way about the ring, and so I was just like, oh, of course they're gonna get into this.
Yeah, I remember leading up to that and being there, and again there was like a lot of stress and things leading up to that because it was a big deal. And again, that was like one of the other events that have been super loud, one of the loudest places I've ever been to. And if you guys watch, the camera starts vibrating because it gets that loud. And though those Calgary fans, they were hardcore, and that place was sold out. It was hot, 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 and you couldn't have the Hart Foundation not win. Okay, it was like with Wembley Stadium. You could not have Davey not win. So I remember it was a really exciting time, but also it was I think things were, after that it felt like things went really downhill, and I feel like that was like the last time our family was like united and like we were happy and together, and things were really, really fun. And I feel like those times were really fun. And I just remember sitting beside my Aunt Martha and my cousins Oj and Athena, Owen's kids. And I can't remember who else was sitting beside me, but I remember like that was like the first time we were around fireworks. We were like, oh my God, like when they announced, the whoever was coming out, and it was crazy. And next thing I know, like when the match was all said and done with, it was like, oh, I guess we're all going in the ring. Okay. And we all went in, and it was like a celebratory moment. And I remember like my dad put me on his shoulders, and I remember him just like dripping with sweat. And it was really, really fun. And then after we went to my grandparents' house, and we had I think it was like a big barbecue, a big function, and just everybody was there. And the cats and dogs were everywhere. And I remember Brian Pillman was holding one of the cats, and that was the last time I ever saw Brian Pillman. He's holding the white cat, Salty Smathers. And yeah, and then after that it was like the one night only, and then the Brian died and Survivor Series, and it just was, it was great. But yeah.
That's yeah, but I mean, if memories to have, like those are some really, really cool memories. It doesn't get better.
It was really cool, and it was really, really exciting. And like I remember like my dad, like I was really starting to get into the Spice Girls then, and I remember like my dad and the Spice Girls, they were like the two hot British things at the time. That was really cool. And my dad said he actually had met them doing a late night show in Germany. He said they were there. He was like, I've met them. I was with them, and I was like, you've met the Spice Girls, but it was all in the heat of that time. And I was like, wow, that's really cool.
Did you have a favorite Spice Girl?
Jerry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yes. My cousins and I, we'd pretend to be Spice Girls. I was Jerry, Brooke was Victoria, Lindsay was Baby, my cousin Annie was Mel C, and my cousin Tanya was Mel B. And yeah, my dad took me to the premiere of it in Calgary. So that was really cool. Cool.
So brilliant. Don McGuire wants to know, in terms of, resurrecting, the prestige of your dad, what is your perception of the wrestling industry going forward?
I'm a little slow learner here. So he wants to know like preserving my dad's legacy, like moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's what is. Well, I think he's like, because you have a, kind of a nuanced view with resurrecting your dad's legacy, in that vein, like, I guess if your dad were here, how would you think he would like the business to go?
I think he would be really. I think he would be so happy about NXT, and it's a hard question because like we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow with everything. And I think he would just be happy like with WWE is doing all that they can do, and they're still making the product really, really good. They've taken what they've had and what we're dealing with, and they're making it work, and they're still going each week with it. And I think he'd be really, really happy about that. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on it.
I like it. Now, obviously, one thing that when I saw it come across like my WWE network feed, I was just like, oh, I'm so in. But there's this doc that you have been quite like involved with producing about your dad. That's going to be coming out on the WWE network pretty soon, right? So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I'll talk to you quickly about that, and then my phone is going to die.
No worries, no worries.
So yeah, it is WWE 2021 Icons. They filmed some segments here. They've been coming back and forth, and we still have to film more because we haven't even touched some certain stuff because my dad's story and everything that's going on. Like, there is so much content. You know, it's only going to be about an hour, and you know, moving forward, I would love to do more with my dad that we can get more than just an hour because there's so much content. But yeah, it's you know, you'll hear my stories, Harry's stories, the man that I want you guys to know and to see. And I hope you guys have gotten a feeling of that with my dad's Instagram, that, you know, he was a wrestler and he did that, but he was also a father, and he was a son, and he was a brother, and how much he meant to all of us. And he's a legend, you know, and legends don't die. And he is an icon. My dad is an icon, and I'm just really, really proud of him. And, you know, unfortunately, his life got cut short. And I don't really like how I feel like my dad had so much more to do and so much more. And I hope I'm doing it justice. And I feel like he deserves so much more. And I'm working hard, and I care about preserving his legacy. And WWE, I'm grateful that they've taken notice of everything that I've done and that the fans are a part of with this Davey movement. And, you know, they put him in the Hall of Fame, and they're doing this, and they're touching base on all the work I've done. I'm so grateful for that, and all the work Harry's doing with, you know, continuing the legacy with wrestling. And I've worked really hard on this documentary too, and I've given it all, my heart, my soul, my tears, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So I'm really excited about it. I don't know when it's going to debut because, again, they're still filming set parts, but it will be on. I know Yokozuna's is going to be the first episode, I believe, after Royal Rumble. So yeah.
I can't wait to see it. Now, for those who want to find out more information, not just about you, but also your father on social media, where can they find such things?
They can find me. I'm going to walk and talk at the same time.
Absolutely. No, go for it.
They can find me on Instagram at Georgia J. Smith. That is my Instagram. And my dad's his Instagram is at the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith. My Twitter is Georgia Smith 87. My Facebook is facebook.com/Georgia Smith 7. And my dad's Twitter is at _ Davey Boy Smith. And his Facebook is just the British Bulldog. So yeah, it's a lot of content, but you know, if you go to either of our pages, you'll find us. You'll find us.
Absolutely. Well, Georgia, again, thank you so much for taking such time to going in a deep dive of everything that your family is and was, and I mean, it will forever will be. I think Bret put it best: best there is, best there was, best there ever will be, and I think that's the Hart Smith family. So thank you humbly for your family's contributions to the thing that we all love.
You're welcome, and I'm just so grateful for you guys, and you know, thank you for having me. And there's a lot of really cool things in the works, and I can't wait for you guys all to see it. And yeah, I'm hoping, you know, I thought 2020 was Davey's year, but I really think 2021 is his year. And yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. And Botch Club on Instagram and TikTok, and say hi.
Hi.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank Georgia for joining us here at According to Woods. Thank you guys for joining us here. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And I mean, Georgia, you're probably going to subscribe, right? I mean, you're on it, right?
Of course I'm going to subscribe. Why? Of course I will.
Well, I appreciate it. And I mean, be more like Georgia. Don't just take my word for it or Georgia's word for it. I mean, here's Pro Wrestler Zeta Zang.
Hey, this is Zeta Zang. Make sure you subscribe to According to Woods